It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island. 'Cause nothing's better than a motion video.
It's Movie Time is produced and hosted by John DeSando. Listen to broadcast shows Fridays at 4:01 and 8:01 p.m. Read reviews and listen to shows online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mindy Mcfann.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Yes, it is.
You know, you were rightfully characterizing many of the Oscar nominees as art films.
Yeah,
And so we have one today that I think I would consider an art film.
most definitely.
This is the Nickel Boys.
Yes.
And it's an adaptation of Colin White. Yes, this is an adaptation of Colin Whitehead's Pulitzer Prize winning
Yes.
novel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nickel Boys, what's up?
Well, that's a big question. It is the way it's shot is very interesting. And it takes a little adjustment, I thought, at the beginning of the movie. Then I started to enjoy it because it's the first person. You don't see the main character for quite a while at the beginning of the movie. And it's about, I think the movie is about, I mean, there's specifics, but it is about what it felt like to me. It was about the unbearable weight of racism. I felt suffocated watching the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't live it.
Yes, right, yeah.
But I felt through the entire movie, I felt the weight of it, which I thought was what the mastery of the movie was, is he was able to do that.
And then that is so true. For the two of us who haven't had to experience it by, immediately in that way, but we do feel it, and we feel an awful lot of sympathy. You mentioned one thing that still perplexes me a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was, as many movies as I've seen, I was a bit lost with that point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized what the director, who is named Ramel Ross,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe I know what he was doing to make us intimate with our characters. And so if you have the camera is actually the eyes of this character.
Right.
It's not the way we often see movies. So I thought you said it took adjustment. It took me adjustment for a while.
It's brave. It's brave to do something artistic.
Yeah.
I mean, because anytime you do something artistic, most people aren't going to like it.
Yeah.
It is a hard thing to do, but I can say, I think that perspective made it more harrowing for me as a white person, and that's what it should have been.
Right.
It should have made me feel miserable, and it did.
And I think that anybody who hears the word reformatory will feel miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the mid 20th century,
Mm-hmm.
right around
the civil rights movement.
Civil rights movement, right? And it's based upon an actual reformatory in Florida.
Yes. Where a lot of people were murdered.
Yeah. I mean, there's some gruesome detail here about bodies of these young men being found on the campus.
Yeah, but I really think he did a really good job of making the gruesomeness not graphic.
Yes.
You felt it inside your bones as opposed to experiencing it with your eyes, which I thought was really gutting, the way he did that.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, that's true. As I'm thinking back, I hadn't even thought about that, but of course, it really lacks any blood at all when this is a pretty bloody business going on.
Absolutely.
Reformatory. We might look, I've got a couple of movies to remind us as we move into the podcast about reformatory schools.
Right.
But it's funny how you don't have any really positive notions of reformatory school, and this one shows you exactly why we don't have it, and apparently is accurate about how these poor kids were brutalized.
And murdered.
And murdered.
Just flat out murdered.
Now we have two. One is really our protagonist, right?
Yes, he lives with his grandmother, who is the really brilliantly played, I thought,
Woo.
to embody the exhaustion of living with racism your whole life. Just absolute exhaustion. I mean, I'm sure she was a fighter and all those things, but you can just feel in the weight of her exhaustion in trying to fight against this systemic monster. And she helps her grandson get into a college, and he is walking to the college, and unfortunately takes a ride with the wrong person.
What a great scene that was.
Yeah,
Something a little bit too flashy about that guy and that car.
yeah,
And turns out the car was stolen,
yeah.
and now, no surprise at all, the police come, and they put Elwood, I think it was,
Yeah.
that they put him in the reformatory school.
Yep.
And he was simply riding a car he didn't even know was stolen.
Knew nothing. And the person said he knew nothing.
Right, right. And then we have the opposite, Turner. And what's he like?
He's more cynical.
Yes.
I mean, Elwood believes in the civil rights movement,
Yes.
and Turner's like, give up.
Right, right.
I mean, they're going to win.
Yes.
You can't fight it. It's impossible.
I love the Turner character because he's been around. This is actually his second time at the reformatory school.
And he's still just a child and already feels it's impossible.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned what I thought was a really powerful character. In fact, I'm surprised. No, she wouldn't have been nominated, Grandma. As Anjanou Ellis Taylor.
Right.
And
Right.
boy, what a powerful role.
Yeah.
And there's some optimism in her portrayal as well. You
Yes.
mentioned how difficult, and they actually engaged a lawyer, right? She did?
Yes. Well, I mean, she tried to do all the things she was told to do. You get an education, you go through the correct channels, and it didn't work
Yeah.
because that's a myth. That's like the bootstrap myth. It is a myth that if you do all the right things,
Yes,
it's going to
yes.
work out.
Yeah,
Maybe if you're white, not if you're black. No.
yeah, and I could so feel the disappointment when I think the lawyer just took off, left them,
Took their money.
took their money
Yeah.
and left them. And wow, you could just, so well done that you could feel, you're almost like a member of the family, you could feel the frustration. Yep, I guess that's the way life is, and that's poor.
And the burden she carried. I mean, it's just, she tries to come visit him after they beat him to a pulp. She tries to come visit him, and they won't let her see him, and so she hugs Turner instead. And the pathos of her, of being overwhelmed by the weight of what she's dealing with, and like the only thing she has left is, I'm going to give some young black man some love.
Yes.
That's all I can do, because it's too big a monster to fight.
Yes, yes, yes. In thinking about that point of view shot, or that technique used here, there's one I think that's not quite famous, but I think most people pick on. This is when, it's someone else who asks to be embraced.
Yeah,
wants-
Turner. Yeah, she runs into him
Yeah,
because Elwood's in the hospital.
yeah,
And so she hugs him because she can't hug Elwood,
yeah.
her grandson.
And the camera actually gets covered by her.
Right.
Oh, it's such
And then she says to hug her harder.
yes,
Yeah.
right. And it's such an interesting shot.
It's
What an intimate moment.
heartbreaking.
I know it is. So, does anything turn out right? I mean, I'm not worried about endings and so on, but where does this end up, Mindy?
Well, I guess Elwood passes on his belief that you can fight it to Turner, because Turner survives, and he takes on Elwood's persona, not only his name, but his persona in belief that something can change if you fight hard enough and long enough.
Yes.
So he it's like he takes everything of Elwood's, because Elwood's dead, and he takes it on as, I think, an homage to him, to keep him alive.
Yeah, nicely said. we have a lot of superimposition of black and white photography from the time.
Yeah,
A lot of, including Martin Luther King, very prominent.
right.
And the way in which we've characterized it, and you particularly have characterized it, there is in King that contradiction of hope
Mm-hmm.
and despair.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's the hope, but there's also the reality.
yes, yes,
That
yes.
hope don't feed your baby.
Oh, I know, it's so true. So Mindy, we are around Oscar time, and this is nominated
Yep.
as a best film of the year, and I think you characterized them right. Many art films in here, for which I'm very happy. This one I find more difficult to get a hold of, not only because of his photography, but also because of the contradictions in the civil rights movement. I think it's so true. So I doubt if Nickel Boys is going to win the Oscar. I just think it's too not sophisticated, but too complicated. I think for people.
I think it's too real and sad, and people don't want. They just,
Yeah.
you know, they don't want to own it. I mean, you have to go see this, and then you have to own that this horror existed and still exists. It is happening in real time, and that's a lot for people to do in the movie theater.
Yeah.
They're not want to struggle in a movie theater. But I tell you, the dead silence at the end of this movie. I don't know that I've ever experienced that to that degree.
Yep.
Because part of me wanted to jump up and clap that this man made this movie, but it was dead silent in the movie because it's hopefully it's heart-wrenching and you feel absolutely horrible at the end of it, I hope.
So while we have the usual light fare like Captain America coming up soon, we still have some of our educated audience, and 35% of them are college grads, so they're looking for something meaty. Is this the film for a family or
Absolutely.
Good.
I think everybody should see this, and white people should see it as a penance.
Yes.
It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know